Alright, hi, my name is Jack Brinckerhoff, and this is my final presentation about Steve Jobs. So let's dive into the history of Apple. The company was founded in 1976 by three people: Steve Wozniak, Steve Jobs, and then Ronald Wayne. They introduced revolutionary products like the Apple I in 1976, the Apple II in 1977, and then the Macintosh computer in 1984. These products weren't just innovative, they completely redefined how the personal computer industry worked. So, Apple had hit some rough patches in the mid 1980s. After Steve Jobs left because of pressure from different tech companies such as Microsoft, the company struggled to maintain its momentum. It wasn't until a decade later, in 1997, where Steve Jobs made his return as the CEO of Apple. And then from there, things took a dramatic turn. He launched iconic products like the iMac, which reintroduced Apple to the tech market, and later the iPod, iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watch. Each product didn't just succeed, it changed how we interacted with technology today. By 2023, Apple's market value soared past $3 trillion, showing just how far the company had come. It's an amazing story of ups and downs. Alright, let's talk about the history of Steve Jobs, the man behind Apple's success. He was born in 1955 in San Francisco and had a fascination with electronics from an early age. As a teenager, he worked at Hewlett-Packard, which is known as HP, the computer company today, which really sparked his interest in technology. So at just 21 years old, Jobs co-founded Apple in his parents' garage. Can you imagine creating one of the most valuable companies in the world out of your parents' garage? Because I couldn't. So when Steve Jobs left Apple in the mid-1980s, he didn't slow down from there. He launched a new company, NEXT, and also acquired Pixar, which became a massive success in animation. But his real impact came from when he returned to Apple in 1997, a decade later. He transformed the company from a struggling tech firm into a global powerhouse, delivering products that shaped how we live today. Steve Jobs wasn't just a businessman, he was a visionary and knew how to combine technology with simplicity and design. Alright, let's analyze his leadership style. So, Steve Jobs had a unique leadership style that people either loved or found incredibly challenging. He was what you called an autocratic leader. He demanded perfection and set incredibly high standards for his team. Steve Jobs was not afraid to push people out of their comfort zone, and his impatience often led to groundbreaking innovations. But this came with a cost, because working for Steve Jobs could be really intense, and he created what many described as a fear-based culture. One of his famous quotes is, "Be a yardstick of quality. Some people aren't used to an environment where excellence is expected." This captures this philosophy perfectly. Steve Jobs inspired people to do their best work, but the pressure wasn't for everyone. His leadership raises an interesting question. Can you achieve greatness without a touch of empathy? That's something we can think about more as we analyze his style. Alright, critical insights and recommendations. So what can we learn about Steve Jobs' leadership? All his high standards brought Apple incredible success. There were definitely areas for improvement. First, Apple could have benefited from stopping practices like public criticism of employees. Fear-based management might push for short-term results, but it doesn't create a sustainable or creative work environment. Instead, investing in emotional intelligence training could have encouraged more collaboration and creativity among employees. But one thing Steve Jobs absolutely got right was his relentless focus on innovation. If Apple had paired this with a little bit more empathy and collaboration, who knows what they might have achieved. It's a great example of balancing ambition with humanity. Alright, application of business comm theories. So Steve Jobs demonstrated some fascinating BCom strategies. For example, Chapter 3 in decision making. He relied on both data and intuition. He famously said, "It's not the consumer's job to know what they want." That shows how he trusted his vision and took bold risks even if they weren't the right risks to take. When it came to persuasive messaging, his approach was all about clarity and focus. Steve Jobs didn't overwhelm people with details. He focused on a single selling point and drove it home. His speeches were another strong suit from Chapter 12. He used simple, engaging visuals and sold stories that connected emotionally with his audience. Whether he was launching a product or sharing a vision, Steve Jobs always knew how to capture the people's intention. Alright, now I have a few graphics here. So let's take a look at these charts, which shows Apple's incredible growth. The first graph to the left highlights Apple's revenue from 2001 to 2020. What's striking here is the dramatic jump in revenue starting around 2007. That's when the iPhone was introduced, and by 2020, Apple's revenue had surpassed $250 billion. This illustrates how one product, the iPhone, became a game changer for the company. The second graph on the right breaks this down even further, showing revenue by product category from 2007 to 2010. You can see that the iPhone quickly became Apple's most important product, surpassing the Mac and the iPod. It's fascinating to see how a single innovation can transform not just a company, but an entire industry. These graphs remind us success often comes from focusing on a few key products and doing them really well. All right, closing statement. So Steve Jobs' story shows us the importance of balance. High standards are essential, but empathy and collaboration can take success to even greater heights. This is a quote I use. I think it kind of sums up Steve Jobs perfectly. So as he once said, innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. Apple's journey reminds us that great leadership is more than results. It's about creating a legacy that inspires others. And here's my works cited. Thank you for listening.